Okay, we are on. I'm going to welcome everybody later on, but boy, I didn't think I'd be this excited, but it's very exciting to see everybody. Okay, first time in 3 years. All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm Vicki Barbero, the chair of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm going to call on the board's first vice chair, Nick Athanael, to call to order tonight's public hearing of CD5. Nick.
Thanks, Vicki. Good evening, everyone. This is the public hearing of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm Nick Athanael. I'll be your chair for the public hearing. During the public hearing, members of the public are invited to speak for 2 minutes per person on the subjects set forth in the agenda for this public hearing, or on any topic that relates to the affairs of the community district. If you would like to address the board before it votes on any matters tonight, now is your opportunity to do so. Although there will be a public session during the full board meeting later, the public session will be at the end of the meeting after all the votes have taken place. So if you want to address the board on any matters before it goes to me, now is your time to do so. I'll be taking comments from the room first. So anyone wanting to speak during the public hearing should raise their hand in the room. After that, I'll go online. And if you'd like to speak virtually, please use the raise hand button now. When you're recognized, we'll allow you to speak, but you must unmute yourself. In order for you to be heard, you will have to unmute yourself. We'll begin the public hearing with any questions or comments from the room. Seeing none, we'll go online to Lisa Wager. Lisa, you are permitted to speak. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Oops. Sorry. At home and no air conditioning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You guys might want to turn your mics up a bit. It's a little hard to hear you remotely. Hi, I'm Lisa. Director of Government Community Relations at the Fashion Institute of Technology, the SUNY College on West 27th Street. You still have a few days to see Millinery at FIT. It's all about the hat in the FIT Art and Design Gallery. That's the glass cube at the corner of 27th and 7th Avenue. The exhibition celebrates the art of hat making. Since 1944, the college has nurtured a passion for hats, and in the late 1970s, Millinery became a part of our curriculum. The program has boosted the hat-making industry in New York City and nationwide. Our alumni excel as entrepreneurs, designers, and creators of headwear for theater and dance. The exhibition showcases the talent of more than 40 alumni milliners, offering a glimpse into their styles and techniques. It's quite fantastic. You can see it through Sunday, July 16th. Our annual summer semester in-person and remote middle and high school pre-college programs are wrapping up next week, and registration for the fall program begins on Wednesday, August 23rd. I'll tell you more about the available classes and workshops when we meet in September, but if you know someone who's interested, they may want to check out the website at the end of August because the classes fill up very quickly. Just go to fitnyc.edu and put in pre-college. And now, just for fun, fashion design alumna Reem Akra designed the dresses that Taylor Swift wore on the album art for the original Speak Now and its new Taylor's version release, which dropped July 7th. The People magazine headline read, Taylor Swift rewears the designer who made her original Speak Now dress for the album's re-release. The 12-time Grammy winner poses in another dreamy Reem Akra creation. I ask you, what fashion design program in the country boasts generations of graduates whose work spans Lady Gaga at the Biden inauguration to Taylor Swift on her re-release of Speak Now? And the answer is just FIT, State University of New York. Thank you and have a good rest of the summer.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else like to speak during the public session? Please use the raise hand button now. Seeing none, Robin?
Hi, I don't know if I'm supposed to go now or with the elected officials, so just let me know.
We'll let you speak later with the elected officials.
Perfect. Thank you. No problem.
Sure. Anyone else for the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is adjourned. Back to the full board meeting.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, I will now open the full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm Vicky Barbaro, the chair. I'll go over the process for the evening, the procedure. We'll start our full board meeting by hearing from any elected officials that are in attendance and wish to address the board. The elected officials will be followed by any representative of other electeds who may report to the board for 2 minutes each. The board then enters into its business session, which tonight consists of the chair's report, committee reports, resolution, a question and comment period, and voting. Comments or questions from either applicants or the public, or if additional information is needed, are allowed only with the chair's approval. We will then conduct a public session for those who would like to address the board on any item that they did not speak to the board about during the public hearing. The public session is followed by any other business and adjournment. So I will start this evening's meeting by calling on any elected officials to either come up to the podium, which they will not do because they're not here. And if they're in attendance by using Zoom, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on. We have Lauren. Evelyn. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see the last name. Evelyn, are you there?
Evelyn Collado from the compliance office. Sorry. Yes.
Go
Can
ahead.
you,
Okay, go ahead.
okay. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. I'm the Manhattan Borough Director for New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, and I'm here today to just let you know that we, as part of our responsibility as, you know, the agency responsible for conducting audits and analysis of city agencies and determining whether funds are being spent efficiently and economically, we have released a series of audits this month, and I would like to invite you to come and take a look at them. They range from audit of, you know, the emergency management agency on how COVID-19 sites were managed during the pandemic, to analysis of the financial and operating practices of union administered benefit funds. They also include audits of the Department of Building, DYCD, NYCHA, and DOE. So you can find all these reports online at comptroller.nyc.gov newsroom /newsroom. And then you can, you know, take a look at what we are doing and the recommendations of the comptroller to address these issues. As always, I'm here for any questions that you might have, and you can reach me at ecollad@comptroller.nyc.gov with any questions. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Who would be next?
Franklin Richards.
Hi, everyone. Franklin here from Councilmember Power's office. Just a few updates. Last month, the City Council voted to approve fiscal year 2024's budget. After months of intense negotiation and difficult decision, the budget was passed and will fund essential city services and support New Yorkers in need while fulfilling our obligation to have a fiscally responsible and on-time budget. Councilmember Powers was particularly pleased to see full restoration to our city's cultural institutions and libraries, restoration to CUNY, a new pilot program for a full day 3K, and a boost to litter basket pickups to keep our streets clean. Additionally, Councilmember Powers has allocated $5,000 to Community Board 5 to continue the vital work you all are doing in the community. On June 22nd, a key portion of the city's mental health roadmap was passed. The roadmap is a comprehensive and serious series of actions that the council is undertaking to address a crisis that has been decades in the making. One of the bills included in the package is Intro 1021, CM Powers legislation to require at least 2 crisis respite center per borough. CRCs are often proven as alternative to hospitalization, where individuals with mental health needs can stay and receive support in small private settings. There are currently 4 city-sponsored CRCs in the city, and the bill will expand the footprint to 10. That is all for today. Please stay hydrated and stay indoors with your air conditioning on. Take care.
Thank you, and thank the council member for the donation. That's really wonderful. Appreciate it.
James Giuliano.
Hello, everyone. I think you said me, right? You can all hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm James Giuliano. I am the district director for Assemblymember Alex Boris. I'll just give a quick recap of what we have been up to this last month. One, shout out Franklin. Yeah, stay hydrated. We did some mobile office hours today and it was ridiculously hot outside. So be careful, everyone. Congrats to Layla Logisico on being named president of the City Club of New York. That was another little personal shout out. This last month, just a few weeks ago, Assemblymember Boris was one of the speakers for the Hunter High School graduation that was held at Hunter College. So that was very exciting. There's plenty of stuff there on their social, but as a alum of Hunter High School, the Assemblymember was just really stoked at the opportunity. And it was very cool to see some of his old teachers and folks there at the graduation that he was then speaking at. We had a great time as an office marching in Pride, and we saw several Community Board 5 members and folks from all of our community boards there. That was a great time. The last update I have is 2 new bills that we're submitting, even though session is over. The assembly member and our team want to really stay on top of new legislation for next year. One is called the PAID Act, which I think it's everyone's hot topic that we've been talking about lately. It deals with AI, specifically AI being used for political campaigns. And the PAID Act is essentially a disclosure. So if a campaign is going to use an AI generated video, image, etc., they would need to put a disclosure very clearly on the imagery that says this was generated using AI, because it's ripe for exploitation right now with folks making fake images. And we've also submitted a bill for e-bike data reporting. Right now, we learned speaking with some of the NYPD precincts, there isn't a great way to record data on e-bike collisions, crashes with pedestrians, etc. So we're submitting a bill that's going to hopefully make it much easier for them to actually gather data so that we can see how many e-bike collisions there are. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Next up.
Lori H.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, CB5. Hello. Quick items. Last month, the New York City Council passed Eric's legislation that requires the Department of Health to develop and implement a public awareness campaign and outreach on mental health and behavioral health programs in New York City that provide low cost and no cost services specifically to those who do not qualify for health insurance. This bill is part of the City Council's mental health roadmap, which today passed a suite of legislation that will play a significant role in helping us address the mental health crisis that is affecting the city. I'll put the link for Eric's legislation in the chat afterwards. On June 13th, the Committee on Parks and Recreation held a hearing on Eric's Urban Forest Master Plan legislation, which would increase and protect our city's tree canopy. The bill would require the Parks Department to create an urban forest master plan, which would aim to increase and protect the city's trees and to be updated every 5 years. In addition, the bill says the city must collect data to monitor its effectiveness. So far, over 400 new trees have been planted this year in Council District 3. And finally, our Fresh Food for Seniors program is back. This program gives local residents of all ages access to fresh produce from regional farmers for just $10 a bag. Starting July 17th, folks can visit one of the participating senior centers and sign up for the program by paying the $10. Following week, you pick up your groceries filled with seasonal vegetables and fruits. And for that, I will put the link to the centers in the chat. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Yes.
Congressman Jerry Nadler.
Congressman Nadler, are you there?
He didn't raise his hand. Maybe he doesn't want to speak.
Okay,
Yeah, no, you got it now. You got me now?
welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you for my first Community Board 5 meeting. I look forward to working with Vicky, Marissa, and all the board members on local Midtown issues and providing you all with updates about my work in Washington. Last month, I joined with Governor Hochul and our local elected officials to announce our support for a vision of Penn Station reconstruction, one that focuses on rehabbing the current Penn Station, setting aside the GPP, and focusing on a transparent and open process with the community to rebuild Penn Station. There's a lot of work that must be done with negotiations with MSG, Madison Square Garden, the MTA, the state, the city, and the community. It's essential that we move forward because we have an opportunity to fix Penn Station, as the money is there from the federal government and the state, and the special use permit is up for renewal with the city. I believe New Yorkers deserve a Penn Station that's worthy of the greatest city in the world. And the Penn Station reconstruction project allows us to move forward with a set of principles to guide the critical upgrades needed to transform the station into a world-class transit hub. It's essential to the long-term economic viability of not only the city, but the entire tri-state region. New York State has already appropriated $1.3 billion for Penn Station reconstruction, and federal funding will be instrumental in the project's success. I was proud to fight for President Biden's infrastructure law in Congress last session, and I will continue to aggressively seek to use the infrastructure law and federal grants, as well as other resources necessary to complete this project to swiftly deliver a Penn Station that the community and the millions who pass through it each year deserve. Another issue I've been working on is curbing tourist helicopter flights over our city. Over the past decade, our city has seen increased numbers of non-essential tourism and commuter helicopters. The overwhelming number of helicopter flights over New York City creates intolerable risks to the community and negative impacts on the quality of life for all its residents. For this reason, I introduced the Improving Helicopter Safety Act to prohibit non-essential helicopter flights over New York City, and the Safe and Quiet Skies Act to improve safety and reduce community disruption from commercial air tours nationwide. Additionally, in this year's FAA reauthorization, set for a vote in the House shortly, I'm sponsoring 4 amendments and co-leading over a dozen others, which include requiring the GAO to conduct a study of helicopter noise in the New York City metropolitan area, working with local stakeholders to develop a more comprehensive noise complaint system, requiring the FAA to work with New Jersey and New York to create a new air tour management plan for non-essential helicopters that improves safety and reduces noise within 2 years of enactment. Lastly, I co-led a letter with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and the New York City congressional delegation to FEMA, supporting the city's application for a $104 million grant award under the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Shelter and Services Program to provide life-sustaining resources to asylum seekers, including the costs associated with the city's sheltering of asylum seekers and related activities. I'll leave it there for now. We'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We look forward to working with you and to your joining our committee, our full board meeting. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Next, Nick.
Next up, Eric.
Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. Eric Straza from Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. Just want to start off by saying I'm always impressed when groups manage to pull off the hybrid format. Looks like it's going really well right now. So wish I was there, I guess I would say. Try to get through a few of my announcements very quickly. One thing that we're working on is coordinating our National Night Out Against Crime event. For those who don't know what it is, it's basically an evening of information sharing, entertainment, and refreshments, spreading awareness about crime and drug prevention, generating support for and participation in local crime prevention partnerships and initiatives, and just generally strengthening neighborhood spirit and the community's partnerships and relationships with law enforcement. So that's going to take place on the first Tuesday of August, which would be August 1st. And there are events at every precinct, and we hope to see some of you guys there. And just so you know, the precincts that overlap with CB5 include Midtown North, South, the 10th and 13th. Aside from that, just to get an idea of what we've been up to recently, we've had a lot of events. June was actually an extremely busy month for us. we hosted our gun buyback where we recovered 50 firearms, including ghost guns and some semi-automatic weapons, which we were really happy about because those are particularly difficult to track down. We held our Basketball City kickoff event, which basically kicks off a series of sports programming events that will take place throughout the summer for younger New Yorkers to use their time constructively. And then we also hosted our Art of Healing event, basically on the other end of gun violence, helping the community heal through the arts. There was a lot of things like spoken word, music, dance, things like that, and it was a lot of fun. We also convened another round of our Small Business Alliance meetings. This was the first one we did in person, basically just to stay updated on what the community is experiencing as it relates to shoplifting and retail theft, basically updating our 5-point plan, and we hope to see a lot more progress from that. And then last thing I wanted to mention was we recently announced an update to our Neighborhood Navigators RFP, targeting addressing underlying conditions like mental health concerns, as well as substance use and substance addiction through a $6 million funding opportunity for The Bridge, a community-based organization that, again, will work on targeting individuals before they make their way into the criminal justice system and addressing those underlying conditions. If anyone has any questions, happy to answer them, but I'll put my contact information into the chat if you want to reach out offline. And thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next, Nick.
Next up, Eric Quillo.
Hello, everybody. This is Eric Cuello, Deputy Director of Community Affairs for Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. Good to be with you here. Congrats so far on a very smooth hybrid process so far. So shout out to Marisa and Vicky and the team. Just wanted to highlight just 3 items on the Borough President's agenda that have been really important for us. First, regarding air quality. So we've all been very concerned, of course, about air quality, not just from recent wildfire smokes, but even during the pandemic and under the specter of future pandemics or other airborne issues. So because of this, the Borough President has teamed up with Councilmember Keith Powers and has introduced a comprehensive package of legislation to set New York City on a path forward to better ensure air quality in places like schools, municipal buildings, and commercial and residential spaces. We are going to be rolling out all the information soon. There was just recently an article in the Wall Street Journal, but we will be sharing this on our website, so please stay tuned for more information about it. Wanted to also cover something that just passed at our June Manhattan Borough Board, which was the resolution for carbon neutrality. Appreciate everyone's support on this for the City of Yes carbon neutrality, which will modernize our city's zoning regulations to support climate goals. And finally, I know there was a piece from Assemblymember Alex Boras's office about AI. We, of course, are all concerned about AI and wanted to stress the Borough President's call to action for AI in New York City. We have released a series of recommendations and steps that must be taken to manage the transformative impacts of generative AI in New York City. This is about development of AI usage in policies and government agencies, the integration of AI education in schools, planning for workforce disruptions due to AI, and so much more. If you want to see more about this and our plan, please visit our website. It's manhattanbp.nyc.gov. Under initiatives, you'll see AI NYC. That's everything. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Eric. Next up, Ben Lowenstein.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben from Assemblymember Tony Simone's office. So it was a busy session in Albany, and you'll soon be receiving a newsletter in the mail detailing many of the things we got done. Some of the highlights are Assemblymember Simone passed legislation in the Assembly that helps people with disabilities get faster decisions from the state on care. Legislation that strengthens regulations on the quality of our pets' food, that protects interns from discrimination based on their gender identity, and a bill to help conserve our shark populations offshore. He introduced legislation to strengthen our elections with secure ballot drop-off boxes, to create a new state tax exemption for student loan interest, and to regulate biometric technology. Assemblymember Simone was happy to join CB5 at last night's meeting regarding the ASTM plan for Penn Station. This plan delivers many of the needs that the surrounding community has been fighting for, from a grand entrance to dealing with the issue of truck operations into and out of MSG, and he appreciates them coming directly to the community with a detailed plan. Design of a new station is one key piece, but what lies beneath the station leaves so much more to be desired. We don't truly look at the tracks and platforms beneath Penn and how we connect Penn to the region at large. We will miss the greatest opportunity to increase passenger capacity of our lifetimes. One of the challenges still ahead is convincing the railroads to embrace through running like other major global cities and avoid eminent domain and evictions to the south of the station. The Assembly Member Simone submitted testimony to the City Planning Commission regarding the special permit renewal for MSG, along with State Senators Liz Krueger and Brad Hoylman-Siegel. They jointly called for a maximum of a 3-year extension of the permit and for MSG to make all concessions deemed necessary by the rail agencies to make the arena compatible with Penn Station. A new Penn Station must not be hindered by MSG operations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Next up, Alex Marinides.
All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. Alex here from Senator Krueger's office. Just a quick update for everybody. Tomorrow, July 14th at 10 a.m. until 11:45 a.m., Senator Krueger will be hosting a Healthy Homes 101 virtual town hall event with experts from the NYC Department of Health, along with an attorney who will provide guidance on how to safely clean your apartment, how to prevent mold and pest issues, and who will give an outline of the regulations in place to keep your home clean and toxin-free. So the panelists for that town hall are Denise Johnson and Tanya Hollingsworth of the New York City Department of Health, and Joseph Schofield, a senior staff attorney at Legal Health at the New York Legal Assistance Group. So you can watch that through Zoom or Facebook. I'm going to include a link to sign up in the chat, and I've also forwarded that link to Marisa and Mike as well. So if you don't get it in the chat, you can reach out to them also. If you do not have access to a computer, tablet, or other electronic device, you can also listen in by telephone. We will also be holding constituent hours in July on the following dates. On Monday, July 17th from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., myself and another one of our staffers, Dana, will be at Chelsea Green at 140 West 20th Street. Now that is taking place outdoors, so if it's raining, it will be rescheduled. But as of right now, it's still on. On Thursday, July 20th from 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., we are going to be at the Stein Senior Center at 204 East 23rd Street. And on Wednesday, July 26th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., we are going to be at the Carter Burden Older Adult Center at 546 Main Street in Roosevelt Island, which I'm assuming most of you will not check out to Roosevelt Island for, but still good to know. So I'm going to include all this in the Zoom chat. And like I said, I forwarded all of this information to Marisa and Mike as well. So please feel free to reach out to our office anytime if you need help with anything or would like to register your opinion on something. And thank you again. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you, Alex. Next up, Robin Forst.
Hi, everybody. I will add my kudos to your hybrid skills. I know it's been a big transition for you and for many other boards. So good work. And I think it's great. I have just one thing to talk about. I had mentioned a few months ago an initiative by the mayor called Breaking Bread and Building Bonds. It was actually part of the mayor's anti-hate initiative, with the theory being that if we bring people together where they can talk about common bonds and share their cultures, that might help unite New Yorkers more than dividing us. So the initiative takes the form of dinners that have to be real dinners, but sitting around a table in groups of 10 that represent a diverse cross-section of some part or all parts of the New York City community. We've had a few hundred thus far. We're looking to hold a lot more. And there is, if anybody on this call is interested, please, I put my information in the chat. Basically, we're looking for a group of 10 diverse people. There is a reimbursement for anybody who decides to host one of these events of $15 a person, up to 10 people, $150. So that should cover the cost, maybe not a dinner in New York City, but maybe some nice snacks. And I know that a number of community boards themselves are going to be hosting such meetings, but many individuals around the city, people that lead nonprofit organizations, people on block associations. The idea is to bring diverse people together in a forum that they might not otherwise have been able to experience. So I thank you. I wish you a great summer. And I will say an old song, some of us old enough to remember. See you in September.
Thank you. Next up is Mafuzo Islam.
Hi, I'll be quite short. I am speaking in place of Peyton Schulteis, who is the usual member that comes, community liaison for State Senator Christine Gonzalez. So a couple of updates. Senator Gonzalez's district office is open. It's located in Manhattan at 801 2nd Avenue, Suite 303, New York, New York 10017. I'll be sure to put that in the chat box. And we will have staff present at Assembly Member Epstein's Resource Fair this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., which will be located at East 24th Street between 1st Avenue and 2nd Avenue. We encourage constituents to come, and we will have staff present to assist with casework. I will provide you information for our intake form into the chat as well. I'll give information on our office number along with my email address and the email address of Peyton Schulteis, the regular committee liaison. That's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Yanni Rodriguez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Biani Rodriguez from the Office of Council Member Carolina Rivera, and I just wanted to share a few of our discretionary funding allocations for fiscal year 2024. We allocated $98,000 for the Jazz Gallery Steinway Grand Piano, $2.3 million to the Union Square Partnership for streetlights along 14th Street from 3rd Avenue to 6th Avenue, $525,000 for school technology improvements, including the Clinton School. And as an interim solution to support New Yorkers divert organic waste from the waste stream, the Department of Sanitation has installed orange composting bins across the city. And legislation introduced by Councilmember Carolina Rivera to address excessive siren noise was heard in June. Intro 0286 would require alternating high-low two-tone signal devices on emergency vehicles and cap the sound at 90 decibels. Our office is currently welcoming feedback to better understand how sirens are impacting everybody's life. And I'm going to share the link on the chat for that.
Okay, thank you. Next up, and I think last, is Kathleen German.
Hello all, thank you for having me. My name is Kathleen. I'm the community liaison at Assembly Member Epstein's office. Just a few quick updates that we have is Hang with Harvey is back for the summer. We just had one this past Wednesday and it was really cool. We got to meet some constituents. They got to speak with Harvey one-on-one. And so it's going to be happening throughout the whole summer. If you follow us on social media, you'll see our flyer posted with times and dates and locations. This Saturday, July 15th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to have our mini resource fair. Many other offices will be there, as well as the paper shredding event that's happening. So if you know of anyone who has a bunch of papers in their house that would love to shred them, please send them our way. We're also going to have PPE giveaways throughout the summer. The first one starting July 17th, the second one is August 14th, and locations and times through our social media. There's also going to be a Disability Unite Festival this Sunday, the 16th. And if you have any questions about that, please let our office know. We'll be happy to give you the details so you can come. And our community board updates is going to be linked in the chat. If you want to invite the assembly member to anything, please take down my information or the scheduler's information. We'll be happy to attend should we have availability. Thank you so much for giving me the time to speak.
Thank you, Kathleen. I think that is all from the elected representatives, which means that we now move into our business session of the board, where, as I mentioned earlier, only board members are allowed to speak. So anyone who's a board member attending remotely, please remember to have your videos on during the meeting. We are now entering the business session, starting with a roll call. Since the June meetings are not on the agenda tonight, they'll be voted on at the next full board meeting. So Mary, I'm passing you the mic.
Read everyone, including one.
Yes.
Okay. David Akalis. Absent. Athena,
Yes.
Vicky,
Yeah.
Bella Carter, Bella
Yeah.
Loeffler,
Yes.
Blake. Gordon,
Yes.
Brosnahan is yes. Chu. Yes. Delisle,
Yes.
Dosen. Yes. Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gasha,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Hader. Absent. Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Hutton. Yes. Isaac. Absent. Quebec.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Pelifarsky,
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Lavangia,
Yes.
Lakisico,
Yes.
Sam Levy, absent. Joe, Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
McCall, absent. Miller,
Yes.
Nazaro, absent. Nye,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Rail,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, that takes us to the chair's report. So again, welcome back to all who have attended in person before COVID. And welcome again to all the new members who have Zoomed with us during the last 3 years. It's a pleasure to now meet you all in person. And at the same time, I hope you'll bear with me in getting new members' names correct, since it was really easy on Zoom to just look at the names in front of everyone. So it's been a particularly crazy but seemingly successful 3 years of CB5. With much accomplished, we found that we had better attendance by board members and also by members of the public. Our cycle this month began right after the notice came down that we were mandated to meet in person. And so our committee meetings were held in person for the first time in 3 years, and of course, tonight's meeting as well. I must say, from a chairing standpoint, I think community chairs will agree, the committee chairs will agree with me, it's really been easier to conduct business virtually. You can see everyone clearly. You can see their names clearly. You can recognize those who wish to speak simply by looking at the raised hand list, and you even know who raised their hand first. There was rarely, if ever, any cross conversations or interruptions. Now that we're back in person, it's very easy when sitting around a table to lapse into a chatting format, often with a stream of consciousness, especially at committee meetings. which in some ways appear to be informal. They actually should not be. In fact, we all know that the due diligence and vetting of Community Board 5 is done at the committee level, and it's anything but informal. So also, we have a tendency to respond directly to our colleagues who have made comments and questions. Our community board guidelines require that during committee meetings and monthly meetings of the full board, we must follow parliamentary procedure. So just to review what that means after a 3-year hiatus, please remember 1, always raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, both committees and full board. And number 2, this is really a difficult one. Always speak directly to the chair. You'll see me in a meeting go, talk to me, talk to me. It's not because I'm bringing anything special. I just want to make sure that following parliamentary procedure, it really stops cross conversations. We don't really have a problem at CB5, but I've seen some organizations where people actually get into arguments back and forth. And since we are supposed to follow parliamentary procedure, I would like to see everyone to continue to do that. I thank you. If you have any multiple questions or comments, please give others a chance to ask their questions and give comments before continuing with yours. Since we are now conducting hybrid meetings by having them in person while still providing remote access for the public, please remember to speak clearly and loud enough so that everyone listening in can hear the deliberations and understand how we operate. If you are attending the meeting remotely, please remember to have your video on. Since the open meetings law and our own guidelines state that the requirement that all members must be seen and identified. I've noticed when viewing committee meetings remotely that it's difficult to see and know who is speaking. Name tags may be helpful, but it's a good idea to state your name before speaking. I'm not sure how the cameras known as owls will be working at tonight's meeting, and we'll review what works best as we go along. So tonight, I'm asking you to please remember to state your name before you speak, which would also be a great help in compiling the minutes when identification of a board member who is speaking needs to be noted. I also have some requests and reminders from the board office to keep in mind that when speaking at the meeting, you are not just speaking to the room, but to the Zoom audience. Please speak slowly and clearly and minimize any audio issues for those at home. Please don't chat with your neighbor during the meeting. I'm told that if you are using a device in the room, you must put it on mute or it will interfere with the room audio. The office would also appreciate hearing from those attending remotely on their meeting experience. During the committee meetings, when I had trouble either hearing or seeing, I would tell, Marisa the next day, and she could do things to correct it. She and Mike would take care of that. So if you find something that you think could be handled differently or better, please let the board office know. They really are going to welcome feedback on audio, visuals, and anything else. And you can contact the office, as you know, at office@cb5.org or call 212-465-0907. We're working on a new website. And so the photographer that you see in the room tonight is getting updated photos of a full board meeting for the website. He is focusing on the larger room, the layout, and the screen to show the hybrid aspect rather than any individual faces, thank God. If someone has an issue, please see Marisa after the meeting and she will accommodate any concerns. With the exception of the SLAP committee, CB5 does not actually and officially meet during the month of August. So while the board is on hiatus, the office will be open. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any issues or questions. So does anyone have any questions regarding tonight's meeting? I think parliamentary procedure is pretty straightforward. I thank you all for understanding, and I do have a couple of announcements. One is that 2 weeks ago, the Land Use, Housing and Zoning Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5 received the Historic District Council Grassroots Preservation Award. HDC recognizes our committee for, and I quote, passionately and carefully review, advise, and make recommendations around significant land use issues in Community Board 5's districts, including the proposed Penn Station redevelopment area. On behalf of the committee, Leila and Aaron accepted this award. So congratulations. I'd like to mention that Leila was named president of City Club. And I thought, Leila, would you want to tell the board what City Club is all about? Do you want to use the? Sure. Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vicky. And I want, before I go into the City Club, I really want to, give a big shout out to the Land Use, Housing and Zoning Committee. If I can, actually,
Yes, show it.
the award is here. And Aaron and I accepted the award, but it's really on behalf of the committee. And the reality is it's really on behalf of the board. This committee works so hard. I have amazing colleagues, and I want to thank every one of you for all the hard work that you do. We've been just so incredibly busy. I had the honor of being elected president of the City Club a couple of months ago. The City Club is the oldest civic organization in New York City. It was founded in 1892. And the purpose and mission of the City Club is to be a good government and sound urban development organization. The City Club looks at urban design, land use, zoning, historic preservation, infrastructure, transportation, waterfront, parks issues for the 5 boroughs of New York City. And because transportation is never totally local, it actually branches out to the entire region. It's really an honor to be in this position, and I'm very appreciative to Vicky for giving me the opportunity to speak about this great organization. Thank you, Vicky.
Congratulations, Leila. Thank you. Okay, that means that we are now proceeding with our committee resolutions and reports, starting with Parks and Public Spaces. Craig.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back in Xavier. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Craig Slutskin. I'm the chair of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. We have one resolution from the Parks and Public Spaces Committee tonight. I'd like to have it deemed read. Okay, so this is an application from the Madison Square Park Conservancy for Leila.
Wait. La fête? No, where is it? Fête du Féline, which is grammatically entirely incorrect.
6 years of Spanish, no French. Sorry. By Fancy Feast, which is Purina, and it's a marketing event in Madison Square Park from August 7th to August 8th of this year. Just as a reminder or background for those of you who are newer to the board, Madison Square Park is managed by the Conservancy. The Conservancy does not get any money from the city. It's self-funded. They make money off of contributions from the public and from organizations, as well as events that they hold at the park. They are entitled by their contract with the city to hold 4 marketing events a year. And what they try to do is they try to make these events relatively big, but hopefully not too drastically impactful on the park, so they can make a decent amount of money to support all of their programs and the upkeep of the park. They have a lot of programs for the public. They're all generally free. Things such as children's songs and horticulture tours, things like that. So this is going to be their first for the year. They usually have more by now. This is just the first marketing event for the year. And what it is food tastings to the public in a setting similar to a traditional garden party. And you can see in your packet on pages 5, 6, and 7 pictures of where it will be in the park on the gravel, and pictures of what it will look like, or what the exhibit will look like. And people will be fed food, human food that's inspired by cat food. So it's actually edible. You can all eat it. You can all enjoy it. I don't know if you could actually give it to your cat. I'm not a cat person, so I don't know. But it's human food inspired by cat food. And the food will be mostly cooked off-site. There'll be an electric back of house kitchen. The event is over 2 days, and August 7th is a press and influencers and VIP event from 5 to 6:30. On August 8th from 11 to 5 in connection with International Cat Day. That is for the general public. As I said, there will be food distributed on both days, but on only the first night we'll have beer and wine. They will, within the activation, Fancy Feast will have a meet and greet with a cat ambassador, the cat nutritionist. There'll be calligraphy, engraving, an Instagram wall, and a portrait artist. All of the temporary structures for this event are within the appropriate size and shape. It's not too drastic. They'll be giving Fancy Feast will be giving away canvas tote bags. There will be 15 to 20 brand ambassadors there. The music will be background. There'll be four 10-inch floor speakers, not to exceed 90 decibels. It's not going to be loud blasting music to annoy everyone in the world. No microphones or subwoofers. They expect to have about 700 people over the course of the activation, but that's over a long period of time. They're going to bring in their own generators. The park generally doesn't provide the generators. They will be provided by either diesel or gasoline. And one of the things that we talked about and we put in a clause in the packet is encouraging future partners of the park to bring in generators that are not powered by fossil fuels and hence less impactful on our environment. Signage is reasonable. It's will be within the activation space. One thing that we're always very concerned with at the park is any filming of the event, but in this case, any of the filming of the event that will include the public will be handled only with appropriate written releases. That being said, we felt that this was reasonable. This was a reasonable event. It was not overly impactful. We have a matrix of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee, which if anybody's interested, either I can send you or Mike or Marisa can send you as well. We ran it through the matrix and generally it fell within the parameters of an acceptable event. And as a result, we did approve it unanimously, 14-0-0-0.
Okay, I'll speak loud.
Okay.
Does anyone have a conflict with this application? Are there any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Yes, Zul.
Yes, thank you, Vicky. I'm Zul. Thank you, Craig. Now we know this is my backyard, Madison Square Park. So there are quite a number of activities going on, many of which we're very, very happy with: the concerts, the art installations. But for example, today there was a Tamron Hall shoot, right? So that doesn't go through us, that goes through the film office. They call it something different now. Do we have an idea of the events that may go on there that we don't track? So we know about the 4 marketing events that we have some degree of approval on. Do we have any idea of the others? And then I have 2 questions.
So I guess, do you want to answer?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess the first thing is, when we're just from a procedural, if I may,
Yeah.
just from a procedural perspective, we're now in comments. When she says question, when the chair goes question, that's when we have questions.
But we'll allow it.
I just want to, from a procedural perspective.
And one other thing, if you can remember, keep your questions and comments to the resolution that's before us.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. So then the second comment is, well, it's wonderful that you make the recommendation that they use a solar powered generators, which are available, but nobody likes to do that because you don't know if it's going to be cloudy back then. That's the second comment. And maybe allow the question.
I'll allow it, but just remember, and from, when you have a question that's not really germane to the resolution, you should call Craig or check in with him ahead of time, because that was, you're asking a different question if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I wanted to.
But I'll allow it tonight. What the heck?
Thank you. I'm learning and I'm getting some very good mentoring
Okay.
all around. Are we privy to the amount of money that these groups are paying?
They generally do. Go ahead, finish your question.
Well, I think you anticipated
Okay.
that.
So no, we're not. I mean, occasionally they give us a hint, but they generally do not. We don't see the contracts. To answer your other question, we don't get anything from the film and I don't get anything from the film and entertainment office. I don't think you do. The only thing we do get, and we actually don't really go through them, or there are some very, very like small, low impact events that we don't really care about, like weddings. Like if they have a wedding at the park, there's like 100 of them a month and 200, like several hundred a month. We don't go through that because if it's a small wedding, generally, we're not going to care. They're not impactful to the park. But things, for example, in the mayor's office of film and entertainment, or whatever it's called now, we don't get that. That doesn't go to us by statute.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, Mike,
Yes, I have a comment. Can you hear me?
yes,
Great. I just wondered, this was my contact there at this park, if they're going to have the proper distinction between the food that they give to the people and the food they give to the cats, just to make sure that they keep them separate. My comment.
I would hope so.
I encourage you to go and find out.
Any questions? That was a question. Any other comments? Yes,
Question,
Mike.
are
Mike.
committee members that were not present for the committee
You have
meeting?
to speak louder. I'm
Sorry, committee members that were not present for the committee meeting, are they allowed to vote at the whole board or should they
Yes,
say not
yes,
entitled?
absolutely.
Okay, I just remember you
Yeah.
saying something.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I think we are ready for a vote. Over to Mary.
Right. Ethna,
Yes.
Alokar,
Yes.
Gordon.
Yes.
Rosenhan is yes. Chu,
Yes.
Dalal,
Yes.
Dosen.
Yes.
Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frizz,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gasho.
Yes.
Oz,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Payback,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Kalafarsky.
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Lavinia,
Yes.
sorry, Lycusiko.
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
Yeah.
Nye,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin.
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Real,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Hu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Okay, next up is Bex with Renee. Here's the mic.
Thank you, Vicki. We have one resolution, no cats. May I name it read?
No game.
Oh, yes. My name is Renee Kinsella. I'm the chair of the BEX committee. Nice to meet everybody. Glad to see everybody. We had Chris Carroll from the Manhattan President's Office and Franklin Richards from Councilmember Power's office. And they presented the Sheds initiative. And what that is, it's a package of bills. And what they do is they work together. It's 9 bills. They work together to address the issue of scaffolding in the city. Scaffolding is there. Scaffolding is put up to keep us safe from falling debris, but it stays up for a really long time. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Sometimes buildings find it too expensive to take them down because the cycles come around so quickly, they can't afford to make those repairs, or it just is a question of trying to get the fabric. If they are a landmark building, they might have to order it from Italy and it takes a long time, and so they keep the scaffolding up, waiting for that. There's a lot of reasons for that. So these bills, it's a number of bills, they all work together, they all sort of nibble away at the reasons why scaffolding stays up for a very long time.
The idea is to try to move away from sheds that we see everywhere all the time. There were 3 council members that introduced these bills. Our council members are Botcher, Councilmember Powers, and Councilmember Martin. Intro 970 is going to establish new design requirements for scaffolding, and it's going to allow the structures to be painted in different colors, raising them to a 12-foot minimum height, and provide alternatives like using mesh nets instead of the scaffolding. Intro 970 will require trees that are damaged or removed when people set up the equipment for scaffolds to be repaired or replaced within 6 months. Intro 972 is going to create a timeline for removing scaffolding if there's no active construction. It just sits there for forever. And it's going to allow the city to correct the unsafe conditions itself and then bill the property owner for that repair. Intro 973 is going to allow newly constructed buildings to have their first facade examination take place in 8 years instead of in 5, since they use safer materials. It's also going to require the DOB to coordinate inspections along the same block, so facade repairs happen simultaneously. So you don't have to see a shed, a little bit of a space in the sidewalk, and another shed. Intro 452 will allow the city to consider a pilot program that involves drones in conjunction with physical examinations. Intro 954 is going to establish heightened design standards for scaffold that obstructs public amenities like parks and playgrounds. Intro 995 is going to provide for better lighting under the scaffolding and replace the outdated technology with new LED technology. Intro 956 is going to require property owners to apply for facade permits within 6 months. 966 requires inspecting scaffolding every 6 months and issuing administrative fees. There's also within the package some incentives for buildings that they can apply for. And this is all being considered. These bills have been introduced, but they're not finalized, so they're not fully baked. And the community recognized that it's on its path, right? So there's still conversations that need to happen with the DOB, conversations with the public. But there are going to be some incentives for buildings who can't afford to do this facade work to apply for grants, to apply for loans. So the BEPS committee was supportive of the efforts to fed the feds, recognizing that there's work to be done in fleshing out some of the details. One request that came from the committee was that cameras be installed or considered being required to be installed in some of these sheds. The resolution passed unanimously 13-0. The meeting became done. Okay.
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with this application or with this resolution? Any questions? David, and give your name, please, so that everyone knows.
David Sigmund. Renee, do these things, I just don't know the process by which an intro becomes a final piece of legislation. Do all of these get rolled up into a single piece of legislation where all the pieces are coordinated, or do they get passed separately and then?
They're going to be passed separately, but they're together, if you will, in the initiative. So the package is moving together, they both. Right. The bills were introduced individually by like 3 of them by Councilmember Powers, 3 of them by Councilmember Botcher, and it depends. Like I can't tell you when it will be. Once it's introduced, I wish I had more. I don't know if Vicky can speak to. It's hard for me to say when it will move beyond that.
And it's coordinated so that you don't have one intro somehow conflicting with another intro, or.
Well, I mean, in this particular instance, this is a group that is called Shed the Sheds, and this initiative is all working together. I mean, should somebody else introduce something else involving sheds, I'd say, could it conflict potentially? I don't know, but it's safe to say this package is designed to work all together, to move along together. There's a number of council members that are all supporting. There are 19 of them that are on board supporting this legislation to move it along.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any comments? Think we have an owl not working?
Yes, that would seem to be that.
Okay.
Keep going, okay. It's still working, we'll just reconnect.
Okay. Everyone who is online, can you still hear us and see us? Okay, good. Any last comments? Okay, we will now vote on this resolution. Mary?
Stasna,
Yes.
Valentin,
Yes.
Valentin, Valentin,
Yes.
Gordon. Roseanne is yes. Chu.
Yes.
Dalal,
Yes.
Dosen,
Yes.
Alice, Ellington.
Yes.
I don't think they can hear him. Okay. Ellington,
Ellington?
Yes.
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 Ford,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Dasha,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Kirschberg,
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Payback.
Yes,
Payback?
yes, 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 yes.
Thank you. Tom,
Yes.
Palmerski.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Lavia,
Yes.
Lycosico.
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin.
Yes.
Southward,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Real,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was a
Yes.
yes.
Oh, and Charles, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Becky. One of the things that, the VEX committee did this month was started to work, and started to parse out our assignments on the district needs statement and budget requests. That's something, for people who are new to the committee that, the VEX committee does every year. And something that's really important to that is to get all of your input. So on the CB website, if you scroll down to what's happening on the left-hand side, you're gonna see a CB5 district survey. It's really incredibly important and would be really, really helpful if every single person in this room would complete that survey. Get your friends to complete it, your mother to complete it, anybody you could get to complete it, it would be very, 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 very helpful. So
This is a first, is that right?
this is the first time that from OMB.
It's really important, everyone. Please take the time.
Please take the time to do that. It's really important. Thank you. Okay, that moves us to the Landmarks Committee. Leila.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leila Lopez-Secor, I'm the chair of the Landmarks Committee. We had two applications this month, so we come with two resolutions. I would like them deemed read,
So, Dean.
and I would like to bundle.
Okay.
All right, so the first resolution, 900 Broadway. This is at the corner of 20th Street. Actually, there's a typo, I'm sorry. Line 186. It should read 20th Street and not 30th Street. Sorry about that. This is in the Lady Smile Historic District, which is one of the 4 historic districts of Community Ward 5. The building was originally built in 1886 with 6 stories. It was designed by prominent architectural firm Ricky Reed and White. It was then extended in 1905, 1906 with an addition of 4 additional stories. 10 years ago, the property owner actually applied for a master plan. A master plan is a plan that basically addresses the signage, retail and articulation of the retail space so that it is consistent, so that you don't have, you know, sort of like haphazard hodgepodge of different designs. All the storefronts sort of look alike, all the signage is unified. And then within this master plan, each retail space can then introduce their own branding and signage. So they came to us, to the Landmarks Preservation Commission, but also to this board, with a master plan approximately 10 years ago. And since then, this property owner has done actually quite extensive work on the building, including some in-depth analysis of what the building looked like in the past. And they have uncovered that there is a lot of historic fabric that exists that they didn't know about 10 years ago. That is actually still, intact behind some of the existing non-historic storefronts. So this existing historic fabric that dates back to 1905 does not actually look like the master plan that they had proposed 10 years ago. So what they're proposing is actually an amendment to the master plan to basically revert to what existed historically. They have done quite an extensive, scientific exploration of the building. They've managed to find the paint sample from back to 1905, did some sample analysis on the color, and they are proposing to basically reintroduce all these historic elements into their amended master plan. Overall, we were extremely pleased by this proposal, very, very high quality of restorative work. We are just noting that they're actually proposing one veering from the master plan that they had introduced 10 years ago that is not historic. And it's the proportion of the main entryway that is subject to these modifications, especially the alignment of the infill window pane that basically sort of like shifts the symmetry of the building. It's minor. We felt it was important to note it. It only doesn't rise to the level of, an objection or, a denial, like, or even like a conditional approval. So we're just noting it in our result, but it is an approval. And the vote was 12-0-0-0.
Okay, anyone have a conflict with this application? Any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the next result.
All right. The next resolution, the address is 455 Madison Avenue. This is known as the Lotte New York Palace, historically known as the Henry Villard Houses. It was designated a New York landmark in 1968. This is, as per the designation report, one of the greatest complex of Italian Renaissance townhouses, welded into a U-shaped unit surrounding a courtyard, originally planned as a turnaround for carriages. It was built in 1882. And it is also by McKean, Mead and White. I guess it was all McKean, Mead and White this month. The applicant is actually proposing to repave the courtyard. It is in a state of disrepair. And they're basically proposing two things. They're proposing some restorative work. They're going to fix up the steps and little stairs that lead to the buildings. Restoration income, beautiful restorative work. We have no issue with that. They're proposing a total veering for the design of the courtyard itself with a very striking paving made of clear limestone and dark granite. So very, a lot of contrast and a very bold pattern. They are taking their inspiration from Rome, from the Piazza del Campido d'Oglio. Sorry, I speak better French than Italian. So the discussion that we had at committee was actually quite interesting. The majority, as you can see, 9 members of the committee felt that the design, striking, strong and bold, was actually a good complement to those beautiful and elegant row townhouses. 3 members of the committee made a very strong, compelling, and very well articulated case that actually it was too bold, and they objected to it. We had a really, I'm not bringing a unanimous vote, which, we worked very, very hard towards this goal. But this is one of those where, those 3 members really strongly believed that the design was not appropriate for this particular site. We had a very sophisticated discussion And although it's not a unanimous vote, I was very pleased that we were able to, argue and discuss this issue in a very constructive way. So the vote that I'm bringing to you is an approval for the proposal. But the vote is 9-3-0-0.
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with this application? Are there any questions to the resolution? Yes, Zona.
I was just curious, like how the courtyard.
Could you state your name just so the
Zona Zoo. Okay, I have a load list. Zona Zoo. I just had a question about like how the courtyard was used and how it kind of came into the state of disrepair.
It's really wear and tear. Nothing terribly egregious. I don't think that there is any vehicular traffic that is allowed. I think the last time it was redone was in, I want to say in the 90s. So, it's just the area is just due for nice little cleanup, and they want to take the opportunity of this state of disrepair to actually change the design pattern.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments to the resolution? Okay, we will vote on both resolutions. Could you pass it to Mary? Hopefully we'll have another mic.
Thanks. Athena,
Yes.
Bellicker,
Yeah.
Gordon.
Yeah.
Bosnahan is yes. Shu,
Yes.
Bilal,
Yes.
Dosen.
Yeah.
Ellington,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Frizz,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Asha,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Harris,
Yeah.
Hirschberg,
Yes, on the first and no on the second.
Button.
Yes.
Huh? Huh?
Yes.
Palafarsky,
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Lavangia,
Yes.
Lagisico,
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutsky.
Yes.
Southward,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Real,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zilkowitz.
Yeah.
K-Back, yes. K-Back, yes.
All right, okay, bye.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. Now to land use, housing and zoning, continue, Layla.
Okay, so for land use, housing and zoning, committee that I'm also the chair of, we had one application this month. I would like the resolution to be deemed read. So deemed. So this is an application for a renewal of a certification of an open air cafe. The site is located at 1700 Broadway. The cross street, I believe, is 50th Street. The applicant is the building owner. The operator of the open air cafe is Shade Shack. They are proposing some minor alterations to the footprint of the cafe, mostly in the layout, but overall would continue to use the open air cafe consistent with what they have been doing. We received during the committee meeting a number of comments from members of the public, neighbors who actually live across the streets from this particular cafe, sharing the grave concerns that this cafe is actually bringing. Littering, loitering, noise, and all sorts of issues that they brought to our attention. In attendance during the committee meeting was not only the attorney for the applicant, i.e. the building owner, but also a representative for Shake Shack. So hearing these concerns and the litany of issues that have arisen from the operations of this open air cafe. Another issue also involved the loading and unloading of goods to actually service the Shake Shack. So we passed a resolution that recommends denial of the application unless, and we were very, very specific. We basically asked the applicant and the representative from Shake Shack to immediately and urgently reach out to the board office, set up a meeting. We have the luxury of having actually 3 weeks between the committee meeting and this full board meeting tonight, which we really felt confident that would be ample time to actually do some real community engagement and coming up with a plan that would be satisfactory for the residents. The applicant stated that they understood our request, that they would immediately cooperate. They said that they would find ways to mitigate all these concerns and these issues. Subsequently, we heard nothing from them for 2.5 weeks. We finally heard from them, I believe, 3 days ago. Monday. This with actually an unclear timeline from the Shake Shack operator. So very unfortunately, the conditions that were really very clearly spelled out at the committee meeting are obviously not met, and this is a resolution for a flat denial, and the vote was 8-0.
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with this resolution? Pete? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, any questions to the resolution? Samir?
Samir, yeah.
Thank you.
When we talk about loitering, what were there like, is there specific issues? Like loitering is just like very vague language. So I was curious about what specifically, like when you heard people say loitering, what were they referring to? Was it just like people sitting there or?
So there's a lot of congregating, there's a lot of people using drugs. There is a lot of people congregating and staying in the area, not necessarily sitting in the cafe on the cafe chairs, but sometimes on the floor and congregating in this particular area.
Any other questions? Yes.
Bradley Sherman, just so I'm clear, so if they had come back and had a meeting with the public, the recommendation, and assuming that meeting went well, the recommendation would have been to approve?
Correct.
Any other questions? David
Sigmund. Was the failure to provide a publicly available restroom a factor in the denial, or?
No, this is definitely something that we take into account. This is now our standard policy, thanks to the great work that Chu has been doing in advocating for public bathrooms in CB5. We consider that it doesn't rise to the level of a denial because we believe that there is a more concerted way that we are approaching to actually get the language of the zoning resolution to be changed, so that it becomes a requirement. We feel that punishing when actually the provision does not exist is not a wise way to approach the issue.
Any other questions? Any comments? Samir
Levine, I think I'm going to have to vote no on this. I just wanted to give my reasons before I do that. One is they do seem to be addressing the substance. I guess I should. The substance of the.
Very good. I'm really impressed.
The substance of the complaints, even though they weren't able to schedule a meeting, I just don't know if that's, in my opinion, a good enough reason to warrant a denial. And then 2 is I really don't feel comfortable voting in favor of anti-loitering signage or anything anti-loitering related, honestly, like hanging out in public spaces, including parks And plazas is not a bad thing. It's what those spaces are for. We're allowed to hang out in these public spaces for as long as we want. Loitering is not the same as behaving in a manner that's inappropriate or antisocial, so drug use or being excessively loud or something like that. And if we do want to have signage, I think it should be very specific on the issues and not talk about loitering generally, which is non-specific and invites discriminating patterns of enforcement, which has been seen in the past from the police department. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If I could point out right here, something that is important to remember as a board member, and Samir just did it, which is when you're going to vote against what's before us, and you want to comment on it, it's really important that you tell the rest of the board your reason for doing so. So rather than just when the roll is called, just say no. And then everyone goes, I wonder why. Or maybe there was a very good reason that might sway your mind in terms of how you want to vote. You'd really like to know what your colleagues are saying and thinking and how they're voting. So that's a good example. Thanks, Samir. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
I'm Cordwall. So I also am going to vote no. When I read over the resolution, it looks like the applicant has agreed to speak with their delivery partner about the noise issue and the traffic. They've agreed to add more trash containers and in the open space to encourage people to use the trash containers. And they have agreed to add signage, and they will also, work to make sure that their space is used appropriately. I appreciate that they didn't have the meeting with the neighbors, but I think it's been a awful few years for a lot of local businesses. It's hard. Things are hard to schedule. It's hard to meet with every neighbor. Lots of people have complaints. I know our city streets have changed a bit during this pandemic. There's a lot more public use of them. But I think they are actually trying to handle the substance of the complaints. And I think that's enough for me. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I think you were first. Oh. Thank you. Bradley Sherburne. So I'm going to vote yes, but I do want to say that I appreciate Samir's comments, and I hope that in voting yes for an approval or a denial, that if they come back, they address those comments in their next round.
Okay, thank you. Zul.
Thank you. I'm Zul. And I just want to say, I agree very much with Samir's statements. Concern for discrimination in public spaces is a very strong concern of mine. But I sat in on this meeting, and so I am going to vote yes, because we brought up many issues that were critical to people's health and safety, including people who are homeless who are living in the streets. Can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, and one of them that was discussed at length that David brought up was the issue of access to the bathrooms there. But these were all discussed in detail, and so I'm going to vote yes.
EJ.
Yeah, Vicky, I was a member of the committee as well. While I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the comments that have been made, I'm going to vote yes as well, because, asking for and getting a promise from an applicant in a committee meeting, as we did this month, is a very standard thing to ask, an applicant for and expect to get a response to in a timely fashion. And I would be really concerned about the precedent, behind not being able to make an assumption and write a resolution based on getting a promise from an applicant like that. And I think it would set a really bad precedent for us to not be able to use that tool and trust an applicant like that in the future. So, I will obviously here be voting to deny based on the fact that the applicant didn't do what they said publicly in our committee meeting they were going to.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Aaron.
Aaron Ford. So quick comments. This to follow up on EJ's point, this is not a small business. This is a publicly traded company that has ample resources, and for a lack of response to an agreement in a meeting, we have to take that seriously. And then just a quick note for the secretary, line 323, that there's something off with the attendance for this, and I will send updated records for the vote and the attendance. Thank you.
Any other comments? Charles.
Yes, Charles Knight here.
Yes, I'm going to vote no on the same concerns as my fellow board member raised about the loitering and about the definition about what was going on there, the vagueness. Thank you.
Okay. Yes,
I'm also gonna vote no, for the same reasons as,
would you give your name? I
I'm
know
sorry,
you're
yes,
set.
Seth Gordon. I'm also gonna vote no for the same reasons, and I just find that the space is more vibrant because of, having people there, so just on top of the other reasons, I'm gonna vote no as well.
Yes.
My name is Sachi Takahashi Ryle. I also plan on voting no. One of the, I listened in on the committee, and one of the complaints that was the greatest was about trash. And so I also went online and I was looking at, like Yelp reviews and things like that, and trash was one of the bigger things that came up. Given that the applicant said that that's something that they are willing to address, that's pretty convincing to me. And, for a lot of the other reasons that have been stated, I'll be voting no.
Anyone else? Mary.
Yeah, Mary Brosnahan, I was part of the meeting and I just wanted to piggyback on what Sasha said. Trash was a huge issue. We had many people from the community call in. And I think that's one of the things that made us take seriously, we need to meet with these folks. They agreed to meet with us and they didn't meet with us. So I will be voting.
You're voting yes. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Michael.
Michael Southworth, I just want to reiterate that to me, this is if a corporation that comes and more or less lies to the committee.
Could you speak a little louder,
Sure.
please?
If a corporation or applicant comes and basically either lies to the committee or does not follow through on something they've said, to me, that's just a hard line in the sand. That's disrespectful to the community. And so on that alone, aside from everything else, I'll vote yes to deny.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Where are we at? Did we?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. That's our vote. Yeah, there's not a bundle, there's not another reso. Okay. So we will vote.
Okay, Asana,
Yes.
Belokar,
Yes.
Gordon,
No.
Brosnahan is yes. Hugh,
Yes.
Dalal,
No.
Dosen,
Yes.
Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Gasho,
Yes.
Haas,
No.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
K-Bag,
Yes,
Khan,
yes,
Yes.
Kalafarsky,
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Lavangia,
No.
Lagisico,
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nye,
No.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Real,
No.
Sue,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. You have a report?
Yes, I do. So we discussed another issue at the Land Use Housing and Zoning committee meeting that has to do with a building on the corner of 8th Avenue and 46th Street at 740 8th Avenue that has received a permit from the Department of Buildings for a hotel that has a drop ride, one of those amusement rides at the very top of the building. The drop ride basically allows people to sit in a little contraption and be dropped for a 300-foot drop from the top of the building to 300-foot below. The issue with this particular situation is that amusement park, which a ride falls under, is actually not a permitted use in our district. It is actually only permitted in New York City, in Coney Island, and obviously Midtown Manhattan is not Coney Island. The reason and the guise under which this, the building permit was issued is that the developer made the case that although not permitted, it was actually an accessory use to a hotel. So what accessory use means, for example, on the Upper East Side, you may not know that, but restaurants are not a permitted use. You cannot build a new restaurant in a retail space that was not a restaurant previously. You have many restaurants on the Upper East Side, and they're all grandfathered because they were in existence way before the zoning was passed. When a use is not permitted, then it is not permitted. But if you build a brand new hotel on the Upper East Side, you can have a restaurant, and because it is a customer use in a hotel, and it is permitted because it's deemed accessory to the hotel, meaning that you need to feed your guests and you need to serve breakfast. So it is not the main use of the hotel. The main use is to provide sleeping accommodation, but the use of restaurant, although not permitted under the zoning resolution, is allowed because it is accessory. The developer is making the case that an amusement ride is a accessory use that is customarily found in hotels. And to make this case, they cite precedent in Las Vegas, Macau, Florida, and Milwaukee. We felt that it was, although it is not an application and we were not asked to weigh in, we felt that it was important for us to take a look at it for a variety of reasons. A, because it's really not a good use of space to actually have that kind of use in a very, very dense area such as Midtown, but also because it creates a precedent, especially as it pertains to casinos, because casinos are an accessory use to hotels in Las Vegas, for example. And that could be used as an argument to actually permit casinos in New York City. As you know, the state has actually passed a law that came into effect very recently, in early 2023, where 3 casino licenses are currently under review for casinos downstate. And some of those casino applications are actually in New York City, and some of those are in CB5, including one in Times Square and another one on Fifth Avenue across from the Cathedral of St. Patrick's. If the idea that accessory use can basically go around the existing zoning resolution, that will deprive the city of an opportunity to actually have a proper conversation around the use of a casino, the siting of a casino, and the environmental review of a casino. The same holds true for amusement rides. We actually do recognize that we actually take no position. Maybe it's a very good idea to have a ride in Midtown, maybe, but that's not the way to do it. If we want to decide to entertain that kind of use as being permitted, then there should be a zoning tax amendment. Those happen all the time. We review them all the time. There's currently actually a huge package of zoning tax amendments that are coming our way. One that we weighed on last month or maybe 2 months ago that had to do with carbon neutrality. We're going to be reviewing another package of zoning tax amendments probably next month that have to do with economic development. So this is something that is done very often by the city. So in this particular instance, we really want to flag this for the Department of Buildings and make it clear that this is a precedent that could have some really unfortunate consequences. Rather than issuing a resolution, given that it is not an application, we wrote a letter to the Department of Buildings to raise this concern.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Okay.
Sorry. A question. We usually don't do this. I'll allow it though.
Chuck Miller. So did the committee vote on the letter? As a matter of just process, did the committee vote?
Yes, we did take a vote.
Okay. So is the letter on the website? So it's available for members of the public and the board to see?
Yes. Yes, the very short, I don't know that it has been uploaded yet, but the short answer is yes.
As soon as
will
it
be-
goes, as soon as it
It will
goes
be on the
out.
website, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us into State Licenses and Permits Committee. Nick.
Thank you, Vicki. I'm Nick Athaniel. I'm the chair of the State Licenses and Permits Committee. SLAP has two resolutions for you this evening. May I have them deemed read?
So deemed.
And I'd like to bundle.
Okay.
First application is by T&C Distribution LLC, doing business as Stoops, for a conditional adult use retail dispensary cannabis license at 182 Fifth Avenue between 22nd and 23rd Streets. I'd like to explain what the conditional adult use retail dispensary license is. We refer to it as a card license, CUARD. And that special license is issued by New York State to people who have been impacted by enforcement of cannabis in the past, or nonprofit organizations who support people who have been affected by cannabis enforcement. This particular premises was chosen by the Dormitory Authority, which is one of the players that the state has asked to participate and has selected some, but not all of the card locations in our district and around the city. This premises is 2,953 square feet for customer use on the ground and mezzanine floors of the building. There's also a cellar for storage and back of house use. The applicant seeks hours of operation from 10 a.m. to no later than 10 p.m., 7 nights a week. You should know that CB5 has guidelines regarding cannabis applications. The purpose of our guidelines is so that these applications are all reviewed uniformly, using the same criteria, using the same method of evaluation, and that promotes transparency to the applicants, as well as uniformity for the board's purposes. If you haven't read the cannabis guidelines yet, they're on the website. I encourage that you do so because we will be seeing a lot of cannabis applications. The committee found that the applicant was professional and qualified, responsive to community requests, and the business operation was satisfactory and compliant with OCM operating requirements, but the location of the premises was not compliant with our guidelines. In our guidelines, we find that an acceptable distance between a cannabis establishment and a public park or place is no less than 500 feet. This location is only 392 feet from Madison Square Park and only 225 feet from the Flatiron Nomad pedestrian plazas. And for that reason, the committee unanimously denied the application. This is 11-0-0-0.
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with this application? Any questions to the resolution?
Yes. Vicky Azul here. Guide me in this. So presumably we're denying because it is so close to the park. And we know there's no smoking allowed in the park. Now, in my experience, a lot of people in the parks know that and do that anyway, but many people don't know that smoking is not allowed in any of the city parks. So I don't know if this is a question or comment, but how do and who do we address to say, perhaps there should be mandatory signage in these dispensaries, these shops that make it very clear to purchasers that there is no smoking in the park. Because whether they buy it 300 feet away, 500 feet away, a mile away, so many of these folks are going to end up in the park smoking.
Sounds like a question.
Okay.
We do request that these operators put such signage, and they've all agreed to do so. And I guess the issue is that with the lack of enforcement, in public spaces. These locations being so close to public spaces are an attractive nuisance. If there comes a time where enforcement or human nature eliminates that attractive nuisance and people are not illegally using in the parks, then we can certainly change our guidelines and reconsider it when that time comes. But given the state of facts now, the community has spoken very clearly that 500 feet is too close to a park.
I think my question was going a little bit further than that in terms of how can we affect and ensure that all the dispensaries that we may approve have signage, mandatory signage that make it clear that there's no smoking allowed in the parks, and who did we address that to?
So that's, it's not in our guidelines, but that's certainly something that the committee can address on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Bradley Sherburne, I will be voting yes on this, but I want to circle back to something that came up as we were adopting these guidelines originally, which was that one of the main concerns I think that was raised was that by enforcing these area-based or distance-based guidelines, we effectively outlaw installation of these dispensaries in much of our district. And so I'd like to flag this, as you say, potentially for review of the guidelines as we move forward. If we are continually denying applicants that are otherwise in good standing by the community board, that we should consider reevaluating those guidelines as we move forward.
Or we should consider appealing to the dormitory authority, I guess.
Yeah, so I think this is the second and third applications we've been reviewing. And all of these locations were chosen before our guidelines, before anything. So, and these establishments are already slated. The fact that we're sticking to our guidelines, making a point of saying we think this is too close and it's against what the public has told us, is probably not going to stop any of these locations from opening where they are. However, our guidelines are consistent with comments that we've given to the Office of Cannabis Management regarding their siting and their regulations. And distance to a public park is not the only proximity concern that we have. One of the guidelines that we've adopted is that a cannabis establishment should not be within a certain distance of a drug treatment facility, or other sensitive locations. OCN didn't think about that at all. We've commented and we've provided that as a suggestion. Perhaps they will adopt it.
I think we have to think very seriously about and I understand your point, because these are going to, the ones that are coming to us are probably going to all fall into that same category. You're right. But rather than our thinking of changing what we believe is correct based on much of it based on what the community has brought to our attention, we should think about how we can change their point and what they are doing and how it's not good for our district and why. So I think that's basically where we're coming from. And I think you're right. We're going to wind up with a good number of these in front of us that we're going to deny. But I think we should stick to our guns for the time being. Todd, did you have
We have comments yet.
I have lost track. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to speak to this issue. I serve.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Hi, I'm Todd Shapiro. I'm on the SLAP committee and I serve on the cannabis task force with Catherine and our other stalwart crew. So the issue here, as has been discussed, is that we are making a statement to have the maximum influence given the situation here. The first thing to understand, which Nick mentioned, but I'm going to re-emphasize, is that the reason we're having a problem is first because the Office of Cannabis Management has not given proper emphasis to the placement of these establishments. They just didn't. And the dormitory authority
is either clueless or they just don't care. And they, through no fault of the applicants that they're trying to help get their establishment going, have situated them in places where they see the maximum number of traffic, the maximum amount of traffic, whether or not they're in your parks and public places be damned. So the way we can magnify our impact is exactly as Nick said. Now, in drafting these resolutions, we're making it crystal clear that the applicants, in most respects, are exemplary and they're reporting to the main thrust of the laws that are trying to help these people that, came out on the wrong side of the law before it was legalized, and in other respects are worthy candidates. But it's just a practical, pragmatic issue. We have our standards. By saying no to these, and in the resolution being clear that these applicants in all other respects should be approved, we're basically making the point to the cannabis office and the state that they've got to reconsider this. And it's true that we may have to turn a lot of these down, but not every single applicant is going to be across the street from a park or a drug center or some of the other things that we've come to see as important, and those we will approve. So I think what we're doing is right. It's also true that we're just getting started with these, and what we do in the precedents that we set is critical. And it's the same thing, it's the same approach that we've taken as a community board for outdoor cafes and for liquor licenses, and we should stick to our guns.
Charles, do you have a comment?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, good. Charles Nye here. Just thinking if there was maybe, it's just a comment. Maybe, hopefully, there could be maybe some sort of way of having some middle ground where maybe if there was an applicant who wanted to be in a sensitive area, such as near the park, maybe they could, for example, have orders taken beforehand and people pick up in the evening or operate, later on in the day versus, early or afternoon when there's more members of the public in the park, for example. I don't know if that's something that could be considered.
Okay. Yes.
On for the wall, I have a question and a comment. My question is first, when we came up with I understand from community feedback, the guideline that any cannabis dispensary needs to be with over 500 feet away from any park or pedestrian plaza or other sensitive space. Did we draw a map to see how much of the district that leaves available?
No.
Okay. And then I guess my comment would be, if folks I appreciate that you cannot smoke in a park. Dispensaries serve more than just products that you can smoke. They have edible products as well. And there is no law that says you cannot sell within several hundred feet of a park. And what I think, and I'm going to vote no, and I'm explaining why. I think if folks want a law, if members in the community want a law that says you can't sell these products within 500 feet of a park or other sensitive area, the right approach would be to contact your legislator and speak to them about changing the law to say, yes, these stores are now legal. It's legal to sell this product, but you can't do it within 500 feet of a school or of a park or of a sensitive area. And we have laws like that all the time. But to create something new like this without even necessarily having drawn a map to see if it actually effectively kills the ability to sell this anywhere in the community board, to me doesn't seem, I think we're adding something that was not really contemplated by the legislature when they said that they want this to be legal, except in certain areas where you can't. So.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So the legislation actually does give community boards the right to comment on the time, place, and manner of these operations. And that's the context in which we're saying 500 feet is too close. So the legislature did anticipate that community input on a case-by-case basis is appropriate And that's why we're commenting on this.
Okay. Yes.
To respond, just, I appreciate that, but if you have a black line rule that says 500 feet, I don't know if that's a case by case sort of analysis, but I completely appreciate that we have a right to speak on it, and so no objection to that.
Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what Brad said. I too share your concern about the 500 feet, but I just want our position to remain relevant. I'm on 17th Street, and so I pass by Union Square West all the time. And if you'll recall, there was that place that was only supposed to be open for 30 days. Well, it's still open, and we voted on that it shouldn't be open. So I feel like, yes, I want to appreciate and validate the committee's work. I will be voting yes, but I do see this as a brewing issue. Like what?
May I?
Nancy, do you have your hand up?
I have a question, and somehow the question here
Sure.
got closed. Now that we're moving into this actual applications, can we go back and ask our elected state officials what we're to do with these kinds of things? I mean, maybe we need to get a reaction, because I think the legislation was very general, and now we're coming up with very specific situations with very specific concerns for our community. And now I'm wondering, can we go back to the elected and say, here's an issue, help us figure this out. How does this relate to the legislation you passed?
I think that's basically what I was alluding to. Nick, do you want to speak
Yeah, I
to that?
can answer that question. So Nancy, this is all so early.
This is like, what, number 3? that
Yeah,
we're doing?
no, but not just like why.
Yeah.
The regulations have not even been finalized. So the regulations that govern these establishments are still in draft form. We've provided comments on the initial draft, and we're providing comments on the second draft. But the legislators are making it up as they go along as well. So it's really a very fluid situation. We've made our comments, we've made them consistent, we've made them transparent. And eventually, I think our comments will be heard. Whether they're acted upon and adopted, I don't know. But it's all so early in the process.
Vicky, may I? This is Catherine. May I speak?
I see.
Catherine, you have to wait till you're ready.
I see others with their
Oh,
hands raised. But Layla was next, and then we'll go to Catherine, and then Charles.
Thank you, Layla Lupico. Just so that everybody understands, this is part of the legislative process. This is part of this new enacted law that then is getting into now the guideline phase. So this is the legislative process. This is basically what the legislators, ours and the others, 150 assembly members of the states and senators are basically asking us to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Catherine.
So I'm Catherine Ellington. I'm the CB5 Cannabis Task Force Chair, and I wanted to just bring forward a couple of points. One is that CB5 should understand that we are localizing New York State legislation. This is an effort to bring our understanding in the most granular way to what we see is necessary, and we've had very robust community engagement. People have shown up at our task force meetings and informed us, and as you hear these resolutions tonight, the applicants have shown up and they've engaged with community to discuss their applications, and the applicants themselves have appreciated the process of getting to know their neighbors, of understanding some of the nuances. So the tools that we use in CB5 have actually been appreciated by the applicants. The other thing I wanted to ask is that, yes, this is early in the process. For example, OCM guidelines say that cannabis dispensaries should not be more than 1,000 feet of each other. There are already cannabis dispensaries in 1,000 feet of each other that are legalized. So we are watching. we're talking, and so I encourage you to show up to our task force meetings. We generally try to meet the last Thursday or some Thursday of the month. And again, I just want you to know that this has been a process of engagement that has happened over a very short period of time, where we're just now having conversations that are necessary on many different levels, but that our voice matters.
And those guidelines did come before the community board and were approved. I think unanimously.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Catherine. Charles.
Hi, Charles Nye here. I'm concerned that you could have an applicant who might not be able to afford many locations, and if the location that they have is, the most affordable places is with, close to a park, and they're denied, then, especially if there's someone who has, been through the legal system and is trying to have a fresh start, trying to start a new business, it's going to, have a negative impact, because then they're going to have to try to scout out a new location somewhere else. So I'm very concerned about, if, did that applicant, for example, I don't know, but for example, that applicant might have chosen that location based on affordability or something like that. And I'm also wondering, I guess my question is, when it, with the restriction from public parks, does that include pocket parks? Does that include POPs? Does that include, is that complete public spaces, or is that just, the main public parks like Madison Square Park or Union Square? So, and I'm just worried that if we have this, restriction, then it's just going to keep on fueling the smoke shops who are selling, marijuana products illegally, and then people are going to go there instead of going to legitimate businesses. So I think I'm going to respectfully abstain from voting today in this matter.
You want to respond?
Yeah, so there's a few pieces of information that everyone should be aware of. This is not a discount location. This is Fifth Avenue and 23rd Street in Manhattan. This operation is very well funded, as are most of these applicants. The other thing you should be aware of is that the state does provide funding and underwriting for these card applicants should they need any financial assistance. So we're not finding any financial constraints whatsoever with respect to these applications.
And is it the dormitory authority that chooses the site? The individual does not, right?
It depends what the applicant wants. The applicant can choose one of the dormitory authority pre-screened locations.
Right.
The next application that I'm going to present was not chosen by the dormitory authority. It's already owned by the applicant.
Okay. Yeah, EJ first.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, EJ Kalifarsky. I just wanted to say, I'll obviously be supporting the work of the committee on this resolution and on the next resolution, I suspect as well. And just to amplify something that Todd said, we say frequently that our voice is most effective when we apply it in a consistent and predictable fashion. And it does ourselves no benefit to contradict our own position or apply them haphazardly or in an ad hoc basis. Obviously, we adopted these guidelines unanimously as a board, and except in extraordinary circumstances, we shouldn't be making determination about, whether they should apply to this applicant or not to this applicant. I think there were a lot of good points made tonight about the fact that we should be consistently revisiting those guidelines in the future. But obviously, as I said, we're most effective when we are consistently applying our own criteria and our own rules. And I think, as far as these two applications go, they're very straightforward in terms of how our guidelines apply to them.
And we do that throughout our committees, other committees as well. Okay, thank you. Next, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Frizz. I'm
new to the committee, so I apologize if I violate any parliamentary procedure, but I'm.
You're not violating.
I'm honestly torn on this issue, so I just wanted to offer a thought. You know, I only question whether passing this, saying that, you know, our rules are 500 feet, but, you know, effectively this one's only 400 feet away. So it doesn't meet our guidelines. And so we vote to deny it, but it goes through anyway. And this is just the first of many that we are going to deny, but goes through anyway. If that in some way lessens the credibility of the overall board, if we should somehow consider that in, you know, how we treat these.
Whether or not you should approve based on,
You know, it just, you know, if this is the first of many, which it sounds like it is, and this sounds like, I mean, rounding error is maybe too simple of a term, but it's, you know, our standard is 500 feet, but this is 392, so it's practically 400 feet away. So, you know, it's pretty close, but we're going to deny it because it's not, you know, 108 feet more.
well, we
But it's-
either go by our guidelines or we don't. And we
Sure.
voted on those guidelines unanimously. Nick, do you want to perhaps give, especially for some of our new members, the background on our guidelines for liquor licenses, how we use them over the years, how we got to where we are when it comes to liquor licenses, and our relationship and response with the state liquor authority? I think
Sure.
that would be helpful.
Sure. So I'm sure as many committees rely on guidelines, the SLAP committee relies very heavily because we receive a large number of very different applications. And by the guidelines, we review them uniformly, impartially, consistently, and with transparency. So when an applicant in a liquor license environment or now in a cannabis license environment says, what is CB5 going to think about my application? Our guidelines are right there. And they will know, okay, we have to find a location that's more than 500 feet from here. We have to find a location that is more than a certain distance from a treatment facility. In the liquor license applications, you know, we have hours of operation requirements. We have a lot of other requirements that we apply consistently, uniformly, and with transparency. And because of that, we're well respected by the state liquor authority because they know we're not making things up as we go along. We like this applicant, we don't like that applicant. We don't review these applications on an ad hoc basis. We have a guideline that guides us so that, again, we are uniform, consistent, reliable, and transparent. And that's why guidelines work.
Any other comments? Yes. Sachi.
My name is Sachi. I'm also on the SNAP committee. I really appreciate all of the comments and, you know, really good discussion on this. I will be voting yes. I will say, I think this is more just a reflection that some of the comments related to being interested in revisiting the guidelines. I would also be interested in revisiting the guidelines. I agree with what folks have said on, you know, having clear criteria and sticking to it makes a lot of sense. But I would feel personally more committed to those guidelines if I knew that looking at a map, there were places in our district that it would be possible to have a dispensary and possible to have a dispensary in a place that somebody might stumble upon it and buy a product. I share the concerns that other folks have voiced about illegal cannabis in our district, and I'm interested in ways that we can work with applicants that are good applicants for legal cannabis.
Can I address one
Yes.
point? So our district is very large, and the reason that we didn't say, okay, we could put one here but not here, is that the vast majority of our district is eligible, does not fall within these restrictions. It didn't even occur to us that, oh, we have to, make a map of what, where you can't. Because in proportion to the entire district, those restricted areas would be minimal. The other comment I want to address. So again, because we're in the infancy of this process, we've just given comments regarding our location restrictions. We've provided them to the legislature, we provided them to the Office of Cannabis Management. So we're just starting to provide what we think, and in fact, our restrictions are very consistent with what other boards have said to the state. So in fact, our guidelines were a model to many other boards in the state, in the city. What I think will happen is that, now that community boards are giving their feedback to the dormitory authority, to the Office of Cannabis Management, that less sensitive locations will start to be chosen. These initial conditional licenses are special. They've been pre-selected for the most part, which is why I don't think that our comments at this point are going to stop those locations. But our position now applied consistently will affect future locations that are selected.
So a final and brief comment, and I will be voting with the committee on this. The process of legislation and law is one thing, enforcement is another. Our parks, whether they're large and small, and we have both, where they have rangers, ambassadors, police patrols, are the places that we go for fresh air, for our animals, for our children, for the elderly, for people with asthma. And we are facing so much smoking in every single one of them in our district, from Central to Union Square, back to Madison Square. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
On for the wall. So I also really appreciate the discussion. I have been persuaded that it's important for us to speak together. So I had previously said I was going to vote no. I won't. I'll just abstain. But I do think there were some folks who commented on maybe.
Yes.
I know. I watched the training. I know, but it's
An abstention is a no vote. It's a silent no vote. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I still think, and I appreciate that, there's several folks that we can relook at some of this stuff. I know that maybe 500 feet outside of these places is not so much geographically, but if those are in the corridors where people tend to walk and be, so many people's lives have been ruined by the war on marijuana. And I just want to make sure, I think the state is doing the right thing in trying to make this legal and a path for people to get their lives back together in the right way. And I just want to make sure that whatever guidelines we have enable that to happen so that people can get their life back together in the right way. I used to be a public school teacher. I saw this happen to a lot of my former students, and so that's just where I'm coming from on it.
Okay. You have a, no, okay. Kathy, did you have your hand raised? I'm sorry if I missed you.
I was gonna suggest, having Nick tell us what the liquor, licensing, what the distances were and what all the rules were, and how they're similar to this thing. So you already covered that.
So liquor licenses, the state requires 500 feet from a school, from a church, 200 feet from a church actually, and 1,000 feet from one another. And the sort of the basic structure that the Office of Cannabis Management enacted in the initial legislation and regulations reflects that sort of structure. But they're still tinkering with all of the qualifications and locations, and it's really all very premature.
Okay, I think we should try wrapping this up. So if there are no more comments. Charles, do you have one last comment?
Yes, can you hear me okay? Sorry. my Zoom crashed, but I'm back. Charles Nye here. So I just wanted to say, yes, I will be actually voting yes with the full board, as there have been, regulations and requirements that have been voted in. But I'll just say one final comment, which is it really doesn't help when you have legislators and the governor who says, hey, maybe farmers markets can sell marijuana products, which would be, of course, farmers markets like in Union Square, and then going against really if the public are saying, hey, let's not have marijuana sold close to public parks, then there's a lot of confusion. And I think, if you guys did hear on the news, they did say, hey, some of these farmers markets could sell marijuana. So I think, yes, it's still in its infancy, and it still feels like you're just like as if it's all guesswork at the moment. So it just seems very complex, but I will be voting yes anyway. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to a vote, during orientation, you all hear me talk about consensus and trying to reach consensus and the importance of having as many people as possible on the board voting together on a resolution, so that we have more than a simple majority, but a super majority. And I'm asking right now if there is anyone who is thinking or who has said that they will vote against this. Is there anything that you can think of that you would like to see maybe added to the wording of the resolution that would help you move in a different direction? If the answer is no, that's fine. But I just want to bring that up, that it's something that we've talked about, and the importance, again, of our recommendation. We are not, as I've often said, we are not the final arbiter of what is before us. So if you have a vote where one vote casts it to the denial of something, that's very different. We are a recommending group, and the larger the number of members recommending is a stronger voice. And again, if there is nothing, or if there's not anything that anyone could add or that would help them move in a different direction, that's fine. But I just thought I'd mention it. Yes.
Sure, I would be happy to vote yes to get the unanimity if there is, multiple people mentioned that there's some interest in relooking at some of these to see if the 500 feet actually makes sense in the district, because one of the initial comments was a fear that we were gonna have to say no to everything, and that every one of our no votes would get overturned, and what that looks like. So but it seems like there is an interest in maybe looking at this and seeing like, does the 500 really work in this context, given where the locations are gonna be, that it's a pilot program, we're trying something out, that we can also perhaps even sell them in public parks through a farmer's market. So to me, if there's some way to then I can do it.
I don't want to speak for the chair of the committee. That would be up to you.
Guidelines are always subject to review. So I mean, if you want me to put something in the resolution that says, the guidelines or CB5's position is.
I'm not sure everyone would be, I'm not sure people who are voting in favor would be, pleased with that. That may not work. I'm just guessing. I mean, we've had a number of people tonight talk about the importance of sticking to our guidelines and why. So I don't want to speak for anyone. It's just what I'm hearing.
Doesn't have to be, sorry, it didn't have to be in the resolution, just that it sounds like we can revisit and talk about the guidelines and see if it makes sense. And that's what people want.
Yeah. Renee.
Hi, Renee Kinsella. Is the task force still?
Would you speak up? I'm sorry.
Sorry, is the task force, the cannabis task force still in action? And maybe people could the people who are concerned join the task force perhaps? Allowing this to move forward and join the task force to discuss it further? Would that be a compromise?
I'm not going to answer that.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
So the task force's work is continuing. Whether we open up the task force now to new members, I don't know if that makes sense, because there's so much work historically that's gone into it. You really needed to be there from the beginning. You needed to hear the public comment. You really needed to be part of the process of the creation of these guidelines to, really effectively be a member of the task force. But the task force meetings are open to the public. So anyone who wants to come and comment as a member of the public certainly can.
Samir,
Samir, let me are the task force meetings on the CV5 calendar on the website?
No, they're
No.
not.
But certainly, we do reach out to the public. So if you indicated an interest, you could be informed of them.
Thank you.
okay, is there another hand up? Tristan?
Yeah, just maybe a suggestion, like maybe providing a commitment to like 1 year after the previous standards were approved to take a look at the standards in light of the applications that we've been receiving and, the change in the district to see if they still make sense. That could be a way to get.
Okay, I get it. I think we all do. I want to go back to what I said. Is there anything that anyone could add to the resolution that would make it acceptable? If not, then I think it's time for us to take a vote.
I have another resolution.
Oh, sorry.
So
Okay.
the second resolution is by GMJT LLC, doing business as Cookies, for a card license at 958 6th Avenue at the southeast corner of 35th Street. This location was found by the applicant. In fact, the applicant owns that location and operates that clothing store or some other business there currently. The premises is 2,400 square feet for use on the ground and second floors of the building, also cellar for storage and back of house use. The hours of operation at this location are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. There was a question about signage at this location that's currently not compliant with OCM guidelines or even Department of Building regulations, and the applicant has agreed to address those issues. Similarly, we found the applicant qualified. Again, the distance was not compliant with our guidelines. This establishment is 74 feet from Herald Square Park, and for that reason, the application was denied 11-000.
Okay, anyone have a conflict? Any questions? Any comments? Yes, Todd.
Yes, Todd Shapiro here again. Now.
I can't hear you, Todd.
I hope everybody can hear me. I'm Todd Shapiro. I spoke before. I'm on the cannabis task force and on the SLAP committee. So this is an example of one where it was a worthy applicant. We did vote to reject them, but even so, we had a very positive impact on how this applicant is going to behave, because they actually agreed to change their time and closing hours, right? When they originally came to us, they wanted much later hours, and after going back and forth as part of the hearing, they agreed and will stipulate to an earlier closing hour. So even though we're voting to reject them or give a denial, we're still acting in a positive way, and we're setting a precedent, right? Which is that time, place, and manner. We're influencing these applicants to reflect the needs of the community, and going forward, we'll be in a position where the precedent is, yes, we will have affidavits and stipulations that we will sign and hopefully will be enforced.
Okay, any other comments? Just to keep in mind, folks, that we are here representing our district. That's very important. We have to represent CB5 district. Okay, then we're ready for a vote on both of these resolutions. Mary?
Athena,
Yes.
Bellwether,
Yes.
Gordon. Rosenhill is yes. Q.
Yes.
Delisle.
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Ellington.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Gasha.
Yes.
Haas.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hirschberg.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
K-Back.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Kalibarsky.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Larengia.
Yes.
Mike Isigo.
Yes.
Matthew.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Nye.
Yes.
Shapiro.
Yes.
Sherburne.
Yes.
Sigmund.
Yes.
Slutskin.
Yes.
Southworth.
Yes.
Sung.
Yes.
Takahashi. Real.
Yes.
Webb.
Yes.
Zoo.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Oh, my God. I love you guys.
Very good chair.
Fantastic. That was a great exchange. It really was. That's why I allowed the length of time. It's very important that we have these kinds of conversations. It's very important that we work toward consensus. It's very important to support our committees. I can't thank you enough, really. That was great. That was one of our better times that, and you've all been on Zoom. So I think this was really a good and a helpful and a discussion that certainly is going to leave us working on how to see this in the future. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we go on now to Transportation Environment Committee with EJ.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Jake Alfarski, Chair of the Transportation Environment Committee. Vicki, at the top, I just wanted to really briefly provide an update on an additional joint committee meeting that was held last night.
Sure.
By the Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee and the Transportation and Environment Committee, at which we hosted the engineering and architectural firm ASTM as they presented to the public for the first time their alternative proposal for the reconstruction of Penn Station. We were obviously very pleased that they chose Community Board 5 as the venue to present their plan directly to the public for the first time. And there was a lengthy presentation, lengthy series of questions from the committee, and many questions from members of the public who were in attendance in person and virtually on Zoom. The evening was moderated very expertly by Layla, our land use chair, and hosted by the Center for Jewish History. We obviously could ask questions all night, but we kind of appreciated the directness of ASTM and the partners in answering our questions. We stress that this is the beginning of, a conversation where we will all try to figure out options for Penn, the state's plan for Penn, future of MSG's operating permit, the decoupling of the governor's GPP and other complicated issues. But it was a really informative evening, and we just wanted to stress that anyone who wants to see the evening will be able to see it on Community Board 5's YouTube page.
Okay, great. Thank you, EJ.
Teeny has 3 bus stop requests this evening. I'd like to have them deemed read
So deemed
and bundled.
Mm-hmm.
Our process with all bus stop applications is to hold a public hearing in our committee meeting on the locations as recommended for permits by DOT, and to characterize the community feedback at that hearing to DOT for their final decision. We did not have a forum at our TNE committee meeting this month, so while the committee held its hearing for the public on these locations, our recommendations as a committee were voted on by the executive committee at its own meeting this Tuesday. Our first applicant this month was a request by Unique Global Travel for 1 intercity bus stop at a location recommended by DOT on Madison Avenue between 26th and 27th Streets, with pickups recommended by DOT. 3 daily pickups Monday through Sunday at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and 4 p.m. and 3 daily drop-offs Monday through Sunday at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and 1:30 a.m. The DOT told us that this location is currently marked no standing and will be shared with 2 operators, Executive Coach Inc. and the BXM4C bus. This would be an intercity bus intended to bring in commuters to and from Ithaca. Although the application information from DOT detailed that they were recommending, as I just pointed out, 21 weekly pickups and 21 weekly drop-offs, which is 3 of each per day of the week. At our committee meeting, the applicant told us that they actually only intend to pick up 1 or 2 times a week and drop off 1 or 2 times a week, depending on demand. They expressed that this is their intended frequency of service and that they have no intention of picking up 21 times a week. And that DOT's recommendation was way more than they need or want. The committee and the public in our following discussion had no real concern with either this location or the applicant's intended usage schedule, which is very light. We were, however, very concerned by what DOT was recommending, which was orders of magnitude more than the pickups and drop-offs that the applicant was even asking for. This seemed to us to be a catastrophic failure of DOT's web form that they have for applicants to apply with, and or in general, their process and lack of follow-up for engaging with the applicant at all to confirm that this was what they needed. And we were really concerned that DOT is currently preparing to issue permits for 21 pickups and 21 drop-offs each week that no one is asking for. In particular, our concern is that that DOT could be issuing licenses for operations that could, if issued, be potentially started up in the future with no warning or further oversight, years in the future, if the applicant were to change their mind, or if by virtue of having these licenses, that they are otherwise incentivized to increase their operation in the district, or if these licenses were, or the applicant themselves were acquired by another operator who could then start to use this permitting that has been issued. This seems to us like a very serious oversight by DOT, and we really recommend that they rethink their entire process of establishing the need of the applicants instead of just rubber stamping whatever comes in via the website. So in our characterization of the comments at our hearing, we pointed out in our reso that while we would have had no significant concerns with what the applicant is actually asking for, we did find significant objection to what DOT was preparing to license, since no one was asking for it for that kind of frequency or schedule, since it shouldn't be permitted if it's not needed by anyone. And since DOT really, at this point, seems to have no process for engaging the applicant in confirming their actual need before issuing more congestion for the streets in our district. It was really concerning. This characterization of significant objection to DOT's recommendation was passed unanimously by the executive committee, 9-0.
Okay. Any conflicts with this resolution? Any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Okay, next resolution. Oops, Charles.
Sorry, may I make a very quick comment about what AJ said about the Penn Station development at the beginning? Just very fast. I just want to quickly publicly thank Alana and Ben from the Center for Jewish History, who looked after me as a blind member of the board. They really went above and beyond to make sure I was okay in the meeting and look after my needs. And I had a very positive conversation with the designers afterwards about accessibility, and I'm glad that they were very receptive to the importance of being ADA compliant and with the needs of people who are blind and visually impaired to navigate such a challenging space. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Where were we? Finished with the comments? Any comments? Okay, next resolution.
Our second resolution was a request by Dorama Tours, doing business as The Ride. This was a request for 3 sightseeing bus stops, the first of which is on 8th Avenue between 39th and 40th Streets, for pickups and drop-offs Monday through Sunday, 11:30 a.m. to 9:25 p.m. This location is already licensed to Experience the Ride LLC, which is no longer in service. The second location is on north side of West 22nd Street between 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue for pickups and drop-offs Monday through Sunday, 10:50 a.m. through 9:30 p.m. This location is currently marked no standing and is already licensed to 3 operators: Big Bus Tours, Gray Line, and Experience the Ride, no longer in service. And then the third and final sightseeing bus stop location is West 45th Street between 7th Avenue and Schubert for pickups and drop-offs Monday through Sunday, 11:10 a.m. through 9:55 p.m. This location is currently marked no standing, already licensed to Experience the Ride, which is no longer in service. At our hearing, the applicant pointed out to us that, as implied by the prior licensing that I just described, all 3 locations were previously permitted to Experience the Ride, which this operator is the successor. So these permits would replace the prior Experience the Ride operations at these spots. And so it's notable for us that this wouldn't result in any new operations in the district. Since these were pre-existing operations and are consistent with the operation and frequency that we've seen on these streets in the past, and since no comments or objections to these locations were made by any members of the community at our hearing, we found no major objection to these locations. And while we reiterated our standing call for DOT to create a comprehensive plan for the district for sightseeing bus stops in the district, the executive committee passed this finding of no significant objection to these specific locations unanimously 9-0.
Okay, any conflicts with this resolution? Any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Okay, last reso.
Our last reso was an application by D&J Tours. Unlike most bus stop applications that come to us, these stops are neither intercity bus stops or sightseeing bus stops, but rather 6 Midtown East Ferry Terminal shuttle bus stops with regular morning pickups and evening drop-offs. The location of these 6 stops are Lexington between 40th and 41st Streets, Lexington between 45th and 46th Streets, Madison Avenue between 38th and 39th Streets, Madison between 41st and 42nd Streets, Madison between 44th and 45th, and Madison between 46th and 47th. The current regulation, these locations is no standing, and they would be shared with a number of existing MTA buses. These 6 stops are for the free shuttle service serving the official city contracted ferry service that operates out of the 34th Street terminal. The applicant is the operator of the shuttle who has been contracted by NYC Ferry to provide free shuttle service for ferry passengers reaching and departing from the terminal. Importantly, for our consideration, at least, we were told that these shuttle services at these stops have actually been operating without these permits already for the last 4 years. While troubling that this situation has been occurring without being permitted at all, we did note that we're not talking about new operations within the community at all, and we're not talking about any new congestion on our streets from what has been the status quo over the last 4 years, through COVID and post-COVID. Obviously, in many ways, this is a very special case in that this isn't a commercial intercity or sightseeing bus operator, but rather a free shuttle service that that provides a useful service to members of the community. It's an operator that is contracted by the city itself to support the city ferry service. And it's a known quantity since they've been operating throughout the past 4 years. And it's probably due to these reasons that there were, again, no comments or objections on any of these 6 locations from any members of the community. Indeed, members of the community have been living with these for the last 4 years. But it's important to note all those special cases. So while we strongly express in our resolution the caveat that this is, for all the reasons I listed, a very special case that should in no way indicate any kind of precedent that we would in any way be inclined to approve of any commercial operator operating without a permit ever. In this case, there were no objections heard at our public hearing to codifying these locations for this city contracted free city shuttle operator. And the executive committee approved this characterization of no objection to these 6 locations unanimously. 9-0.
Okay, thank you, EJ. Any conflicts? Any questions? Any comments? Todd?
So this is right in my backyard. I live not far from where the ferries are. I applaud you for showing flexibility of mind.
You have to speak up a little bit.
I
more.
applaud, this is right in my backyard, the ferries and the buses, and I know those bus routes from often on it myself. I applaud your flexibility of mind in allowing this to go through. I hope that your resolution records the utter, the fact that the city and its contractors did not take the time to obey laws of the city is completely unacceptable. And I say that here, if the city itself doesn't take the time to obey its own rules and laws, then who is, right? And it's admirable. I'm not on the committee, but I know that you're consistent in how you treat commercial and tour operators, but the city has to abide by its own rules. I simply make that comment, and I hope it's strongly worded in your resolution.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, Janice.
Thank you, Janice Young. Just to clarify, unless I'm mistaken, but I believe New York City Ferry had a previous contractor that did have the permit, but in this transition to this new contractor, it didn't transfer over. So yes, this new contractor is currently operating without the permit, but not for the 4 years, unless I'm mistaken.
That's helpful. Yeah, not for the entire 4 years, although they are currently operating without the permit.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing no comments, we are voting. Let's vote of the evening on, excuse me, 3 resolutions by Jeannie.
Atheno,
Yes.
Loco,
Yes.
Gordon, Rosenhan is yes, Chu,
Yes.
Delisle,
Yes.
Dawson. Yes. Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Dasha,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg.
Yes.
Hutton. K-Back,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Calipari.
Yes.
Kinsella,
Yes.
Amelia.
Yes.
Lagisico.
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
9,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi, Real,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Zook,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zobowitz.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes us, excuse me again, that takes us into our public session. Is there anyone from the public? Please raise your hand if you would like to address the board this evening. Samir.
Do you want me to come to the front because it's public session?
Sure.
Just want to follow.
There's my there.
Thank you.
Very good.
One thing that I'm trying to understand, and maybe it would be helpful for new members as well, is I was under the understanding that a committee can send a letter to an agency when it's something that has already been voted on by the full board. But I don't know if that happened today. I just want to understand why we are able to send a letter from the committee without going through the full board. Thank you.
I believe the basic premise was around the resolution that was written on casinos. Isn't that how we arrived at that, Leila?
Yeah, this is.
You want to answer?
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Yes, this is an issue that has been brought up in the casino review. So that really falls into this review, and also because it's not an application and it is going to an agency with which we don't have a formal role. Sending a resolution is a format that would not really be consistent with this kind of communication.
Okay, anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Please raise your hand as an attendee. Anyone? All right. I think that winds us up for the evening. The meeting is adjourned. It's good to see everyone. Look forward to seeing you in September. Enjoy the month and a half that you all have off. Yes, keep the